How many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, happy Wednesday, hump day. We're at least on the downhill slide to the weekend. What is the news going to do? I don't know. But they're still talking about that plane crash in Canada.
Yeah, they had some great video yesterday. It's amazing. Everybody's shooting footage sometime, somewhere, right?
Because, isn't that odd?
Yeah, they had a camera. Some guy was in his car, I guess, and they were shooting this plane landing. And it's incredible footage. You see the whole thing. He came in hot, Bill.
Yeah, I think it was pilot error. Now that I'm hearing everything and other people that do investigations and where he was, there's something like at 200 some odd feet is when he's got to make his final call, 500 feet, but 200 feet. He has to be, everything's got to be right. You've got to be in the glide and everything's perfect.
Yes.
At which point in time, if it's not and it wasn't, you throttle up, pull up, and get the hell out of that thing, and you go back around and reline up, or you go to an alternate.
One of the things I noticed, Bill, when I was watching it, and a pilot actually said this last night on one of the networks, is that he didn't flare when he was landing. When you land an airplane, you come down and you literally fly down to the runway, and just as you say, Bill, when you get to about 200 feet, you pull up and you lift your nose up, and that's called a flare. Yeah. And it slows the plane down. He didn't do that.
Yeah, you do that, and you use your flaps too, but, and your rear wheels kind of settle down on that, and then you bring that nose down. But no, none of that took place, and it almost looked like, too, when he hit hard.
Yeah.
And the landing gear on the right wing may have given out, exploded right away.
Yes, I agree.
Now, the thing that I worry about that is there are a lot of weird mechanical things. Now, granted, there's a lot going on in this flight, but let's just say for a minute something was set up to fail in that landing gear. One plane, not so much. Two planes, that jet that crashed last week where the Learjet was landing and the front nose gear gave out right away and caused it careen and go wild and hit another plane that was waiting to taxi out that was full of people and killed some people. Which, by the way, that was Vince Neil's plane, private jet. And he's the lead singer of Motley Crue, which he was the guy, as I recall, that, once everyone's going, oh, I was lucky he wasn't in the plane. I'm going like, well, gee, he was driving a car when he was drunk. With well, anyway, that's an old story, but I'm just saying, not that I wish any ill will on him, but the point is.
The thing that was very lucky about this crash, and I say lucky, when it landed and it hit hard, it went to the right, broke the right wing off, which proceeded to explode and catch fire.
Burning up all the fuel and getting out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. The fuel and the wing, which normally would be attached and on fire, was behind the plane. That's why the plane didn't catch fire. Very lucky. Very lucky.
And then it did its little twist and rotate over. So maybe some twisting in the fuselage, and then the thing just flipped over, and they were upside down. So with everybody pretty much strapped in, it was lucky that you had 80 people on board and 80 people walk off board.
What's amazing, Bill, is the reporting. They said that 3 people were in critical. Then yesterday I heard everybody was released from the hospital.
Yeah. So, no, it was a miracle. I mean, divine intervention, God, you can go all those directions. There was a miracle that took place. It was, I think it was bad weather and pilot error, misjudgment, whatever you want to call it. But it does seem odd that we are having a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to get into the psyche of the pilot, because they sure want to blame this all on Trump.
Yeah.
Everything is Trump's fault.
Well,
Every-
the difference is that Trump nowadays, this time around, doesn't seem to care. He seemed to care more in the first term, what the press thought. I think his attitude right now is damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, and to hell with the press. He's also, Bill, have you noticed he doesn't give the press too much time to think about a subject without dropping a lot of other stuff on them. For example, he's been giving press conferences, significant press conferences, almost on a daily basis. So just when they think they have a story that's long term, he comes along and here's another one that you have to think about.
Yeah.
So,
He doesn't give them a lot of chance here. But now, the interesting thing is with the firings, kind of moving on here. The thing that I noted is an attorney came out and said, well, these firings aren't going to stand because they're not performance based. And I'm going like, I was in a firing, it seems like I've led a litigious life, and maybe so with the people I worked for. But I remember being in court over something like that. And one of the things, I let somebody go within a 90-day probationary period. Now, there was cause in my case, to let them go. But I remember the arguments, that they came in there and said, well, they had a 90-day probation. Did they get their full 90 days? Because if they didn't, you didn't give them a chance. Attorneys argue it every way. They're arguing now that there was no performance cause. And I'm sitting there going, and they're saying that in a couple of examples, they were given an email that said, you didn't meet the performance requirements, which I hope that didn't say that. It should have just sat there and said, it should have just been generic, just saying, hey, we're letting you go due to change in direction, budgetary, whatever, because you can do that.
One of these judges, I don't know where these people are coming from, how they even got into a position to be judges. One judge, she was saying to Trump that he didn't have authority to dismiss people from the executive branch of office.
Then why is he president? And why do we have a president if they don't have authority?
Well, I think they're beyond giving a damn about what everyone else thinks they're doing. It says the story is a federal judge on Tuesday signaled she would side with a group of transgender soldiers who sued to block President Trump's executive order on transgender troops. Now, mind you, he is the, quote, commander-in-chief. He's also the president of the United States. Judge Anna Reyes, a Biden appointee, grilled Department of Justice lawyers on Tuesday and said that Trump's executive order asserting that there were only two genders is, quote, not biologically correct. She is a nut, okay?
Yeah, where's the science in that? Because I saw that, and I'm going like, not biologically correct. So we are being taught now, indoctrinated to that there are boys, there are girls, there are transgenders. There's walking, talking lamp posts next. I mean, where does it stop?
No, there is two genders. It's in your DNA.
That's
it. There's no third gender, fourth gender. There's only two. And but this lady, she says no. She says there's more. She grilled the lawyers on the use of pronouns and gender ideology. Quote, if you were in a foxhole, you wouldn't care about these individuals' gender ideology, right? The judge asked Department of Justice lawyers. It goes on and on. She said, you and I both agree. This is the judge. You and I both agree that the greatest fighting force that world history has ever seen is not going to be impacted in any way by less than 1% of the soldiers using a different pronoun than others might want to call them. Would you agree with that? The judge said to the Department of Justice lawyers. The Department of Justice lawyers responded, no, Your Honor. I'm not in agreement with that. I can't agree with that. I mean, she was trying to put words in the Department of Justice's mouths, and it wasn't working, thank goodness. But this is what we're dealing with in these courts. These people were inserted. In many cases, folks, Just because they wear the robes and have the seat doesn't mean they have the brains. Some of these people are, you wonder how the hell they got through law school. And all of a sudden, maybe they were clerks or stumbling through their profession, and all of a sudden they got a political appointment. Next thing you know, they're a judge. Oh, Your Honor, you're a judge. I grew up in a house of lawyers. My dad was a lawyer, very good lawyer, very successful. We used to talk, and I've known all my life that some judges are the biggest fatheads you'll ever meet in your life. Yet they do have the robe, they do have the gavel, and they sit behind the bench. And you have to deal with their idiosyncrasies, their nuances. In this case, Bill, they were planted. I think a lot of these people go back to being planted by Soros and company. George Soros, he took his money and he backed these people, and all of a sudden, here they are, raising their ugly head.
We give a lot more credence to a guy in a black robe as being the all-knowing and omnipotent than what is actually there. And this transgender thing, it goes. They try to impose and implant in our minds, fiction from reality. The transgender thing. I mean, I was out seeing the Sonic movie, the new Sonic movie this weekend with the kid, and in there, Jim Carrey is playing a character that he's always played. What is it, Egghead, whatever it is, and he talks about being able to fall in love with anybody. I don't remember the exact line, but it stuck out in my mind. It was one line, kind of slid in there just nonchalantly, of I can't fall in love with anybody of any gender, and I'm like going, what? Excuse me? And
Hollywood's nervous right now because apparently Elon Musk, and he's a busy guy. Elon Musk has gotten together with Denzel Washington and one other, Mark Wahlberg. They're kind of going against the Hollywood grain, and apparently there's talk that they're going to build another studio with a lot of money and start to promote general appeal movies again, movies without a political agenda, without trying to shove a philosophy down the audience's throat. What you just said is typical of Hollywood nowadays. It's the subtle nuances that they're throwing into movies. All of a sudden you're seeing all these different characters. All of them are always different now. You're not seeing like a bunch of white guys. You're seeing a black guy, a Hispanic, an Asian, maybe a white guy, maybe not, but they're all together, and those are the pack of superheroes. It's subtle, but it's their philosophy. Look at television nowadays. Every television series right now, every new episode has got a gay scene in it. There's a gay character in almost every new TV show. And
I would say every one, because everything I've noticed. Now, I don't mind people, their sexual, whatever their orientation is, but you're developing deliberate roles to sit there and distort facts.
I don't care whether I don't listen. I have no. You can be what you want to be, and you can live your own life, and that's fine with me. I really mean that. I'm not disparaging gays. What I'm saying is that Hollywood, the point I'm trying to make is Hollywood thinks it's necessary for them to educate all of us in our entertainment. We watch television. Believe me, when you say it's free, it's not free. They make their money off commercials many times, and those commercials are made off of you and I. Because
no, you pay for it when you watch. I mean, you paid for the TV or the movie theater. You paid for the ticket. You paid for the electricity. The commercials you see, you paid for it. So damn it, they ought to give us what we want, not what they want to give us and shove down our throat.
Yeah, no more of this political crap. Just give us a movie. And by the way, I'm sick of seeing the Tom Hanks and all these other people get out and even in a subtle way. The thing that irritated me this week was Hanks going on Saturday Night Live and belittling the MAGA people who supported President Trump. 77 million. By the way, many of them were people who supported his movies. At some point, we've got to say, hey, up yours, pal. You know, at some point we got to say no more. You know, you want to mock me because I believe differently than you in some political area? Then the heck with you. I don't have to support your movies. And you're not going to miss a hell of a lot, by the way. If I never see Saving Private Ryan again, to hell with it.
You've seen it once. You've seen it. You only have to see it once.
There's a brand new movie out series out right now, miniseries. I think it's on Netflix, starring Robert De Niro. Now, normally I would have jumped at it. I'm talking about a few years ago. I would have jumped at it because I didn't care about his political stuff a few years ago. But I do care about what he thinks now. I cannot separate Robert De Niro now from the characters. He has ruined it for me as a viewer. Every time I see him, I think of a guy who doesn't like the people I believe in. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, well, one of the things that he's done is not only has making your political views known. Okay, that's your prerogative. You can do that, just like we sit here and do the podcast. But when they sit there and go out and publicly, use vile words to sit there and degrade Trump and degrade you because you support Trump and it's not what they support, then all of a sudden he's changed there and he's changed it. He's in an attack mode and he's attacking me and my feelings and my convictions because they're not his. Well, I don't give a De Niro about it because he can go and jump off a building for all I care. If that's what he wants to do and be vile like that and sit there and degrade, somebody for no good reason other than he just, he doesn't
funny.
like his politics.
He has said things in public about how he liked to punch Trump, and I didn't realize this until I saw him come out when he was speaking in public at one of those Trump lawfare trials. I forgot which one it was in New York. I forgot how short Robert De Niro really is. Have you seen, by the way, how tall Trump is? People don't realize. I think he's about 6'5". He's a tall guy, and he's in good shape. I think De Niro, he plays these tough guys on TV, and I think he believes it. He believes he's a tough guy, because he talks fun. He has convinced himself that he's the characters he plays. I'd be careful.
He's a fraud. He's a phony. He's got a look. He got some lucky roles young, and they gave him some good lines. And because he didn't come up with the lines, he didn't write them. All he had to do was say the words. And wow, I can't believe that. People are mesmerized because the camera and the lights and everything around, made him look bigger than life. But, he is just a little pissant.
Well, what people don't realize is that in the movie business, you don't realize how many takes it takes sometimes to get the right one. Some people say, boy, what a great actor. What a great actor.
No.
You may not know. It may take 15 different tries to get that one thing that the director wants.
He's admitted to more than that on the interviews. I've seen him one time, and he admitted, and I thought, if you're getting into the double digits to get something right, and maybe in the high double digits, then maybe you might want to think, because we're not talking about a paragraph or a whole page of, like a book that you got to memorize and say and get just right. You're talking 1 to 2 sentences. If you can't do that, and then they go cut, okay, that's it. You might deliver the line again from a different camera angle, but they can use the audio from the other take. They can do a lot of different things because you're not going to do 2 reads exactly the same twice, but they have enough to work with. But this is going on to where he can't get it down. He can't get the line right, and it goes forever. But they get a movie. He's the star. And no, everybody sees the final cut. They don't see all the flubs that he's done to get there.
What you should see is a fresh, hot cup of Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee. Now, I hate to just kind of segue, but I don't want you to go much longer without pouring yourself a cup. If you have the coffee already. If you don't have the coffee, you should buy yourself a bag of Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, medium blend and medium decaf roast, two different variations. Delicious cup of coffee made from the finest coffee beans you can get. And also, we have a sister brand out now called Make America Percolate Again, MAPA, MAPA. All right, it's a delicious blend of coffee, two different variations in one store. It's at rightsideshop.com. I had to think about it for a second. Rightsideshop.com. It's very easy to get. Not terribly expensive. There are a lot of coffees that are actually more expensive than ours. And you can go on that site right now, order it, and you'll have it before you know it. You can't believe how fast it'll get there. Also, we have the only guys in America, in all of the Americas, who sing this song so well.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
So wake up on the right side to Right Side Coffee. Bill, it is incredibly cold where I'm at. It's 9 degrees right now. I was reading a story that says temperatures are expected to fall to record 50 degrees below average. Brace for a deadly winter storm sometime soon. This is in today's news. Apparently, they had terrible flooding in Kentucky and parts of West Virginia, and now they're dealing with the cold weather, which I'm sure ices everything up, which makes it even worse. You got to feel sorry for those poor people.
I think we're going through a 10-year span, though, of where the temperatures are going to shift and be colder, because it's something that historically happens. If you remember, we actually had some of that going on back in the, I think, mid to late 70s, where we had some freezing, temperatures and, heavy snowfall that was going on. But, the other thing that I've always equated to it, too, is I remember, when did Mount St. Helens blow? We had a lot of volcanic activity when we had the temperature cold spell.
1980.
80. So all the cold spells and all that. Now they're saying one of the mountains in Alaska, I guess, is getting ready to erupt. There's volcanoes that are acting up that may do that. The one offshore in California that hasn't done it yet, but the San Andreas Fault is now shifting and moving, and they're getting earthquakes along the fault. Some of the shoreline is slipping in. You could blame it on a lot of things, but if you look historically, we've been here before. And
it's funny. I chuckled a bit when you started talking about the story, but I only chuckled because back then the environmentalists were saying we were getting ready for a cold. What do they call it? Cold global cooling. That's what they called it. Global cooling. It was not global warming, friends. Global cooling. They couldn't get their act correct. Then they changed it to global warming, and when that didn't really work out for them, it was climate change, which growing up we called it the weather.
Yeah.
But
well, I got news. The climate changes every frickin' day.
Yes,
and it's part of the natural process of what goes on. If you're going to worry about disasters, I forget the name of it. I really haven't got the story in front of me to research, but there's a comet out there that is on a course to, maybe it's right now, they say it went from a nothing to about almost a 3% chance of hitting. They even know where it will skid along and hit. It won't hit here in the United States, but it doesn't matter because of the size of the impact. It'll be like 500 nuclear bombs going off. It's a planet changer.
We have meteors hitting our planet all the time.
Yes.
So it's not like it's terribly unusual. We've had comets hit us before.
This is a big one. In 2032, I believe it is. It's all over the news, but again, it's too far out. Who knows? There's a lot of things that could change it, and go on. But if you're gonna predict something or worry about something that's real and that
Hey, the way things are right now, we may have Elon Musk send up his rockets with some big engines and have them move the trajectory exactly. Who knows?
He might be going to space though with those rockets too, or up to get the stranded astronauts.
Yeah, that's true. That should be any time now. You see, we're This is interesting. CNN is trying desperately to find something to go after Trump and Elon Musk about, and they've had a couple of spokespeople for the right as guests in just the past 24 hours. One of them was Stephen Miller. The other one was Representative Tim Burchett. It didn't go well for CNN's anchors. Let me play the first cut. This is Stephen Miller on a CNN show yesterday, and he just wasn't giving the host what she wanted him to say. Listen.
Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, thank you so much for taking time for us. So who is in charge of Doge?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of Doge?
No, the Doge is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the executive office of the president, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is a president wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles,
yes,
including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk a week ago answered a question about transparency at Doge. This is how he spoke about Doge.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
You hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of Doge?
Again, the president runs the government, then the president appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House, and then those staff in turn execute the president's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box, they elect the president appoints staff, the staff then administer his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but this is important because we want to talk about who's making the decisions here. There were 300 employees, the National Nuclear Security Administration, you know about this. They were fired. The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear stockpile. So then who is it making those decisions of which federal employees are terminated?
Well, in that case, the Secretary of Energy would be the one. So what you're describing with the cuts in the Department of Energy, those are directed by the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Energy.
Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy's mistake.
Well, I wouldn't use the term mistake. I would say that it's pretty standard when you're downsizing government. You make cuts, you assess those cuts, you see who needs to be rehired, who needs to be kept, who needs to be
That's not what happened here, though, Stephen. You know that. They were rescinded. These aren't normal things. These were terminations that were rescinded.
I understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis and catastrophe for you and for CNN. What the American people see is a government that is finally delivering a promise of accountability under President Trump. You want to have a conversation about transparency. Let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea where the $22 billion that the Department of Health and Human Services provided to illegal aliens under Joe Biden is right now? $22 billion with a B. That's enough to provide a free house to every homeless veteran in America. Where's the $22 billion? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Joe Biden just spent it, and now it's gone. Transparency begins with having an accounting of where every federal dollar is spent. And God bless President Trump for leading this effort.
Stephen, it seems like the crisis here had to do with the nation's nuclear stockpile. And for these particular federal workers, which I'm not, so this isn't my personal crisis, military members of the Guard and the Reserve. I don't think it's a crisis, and you don't think it's... Well, hold on. I don't think it's a crisis, and you don't think it's a crisis, then why are we talking about it? Military...
I don't think it's a crisis, and you don't think it's a crisis, so why are we talking about it?
Because she wants to make a point here and just, she wants to derail the Trump train, with nothing.
She was desperately trying to muck things up. We'll just leave it at that. That's with an M, and it wasn't working out very well. I mean, Miller was giving her a civics lesson about how government works, She was trying to make it sound like Elon Musk is running roughshod over the government. There's a system in place. There is order to this machine, and she just doesn't want to believe that. Her name, by the way, is Brianna Keeler.
She figures she's got the microphone. It's her chance to talk, and she's going to keep talking no matter what, even if she doesn't have to say it. It's like being on the floor of the House, to where you hear somebody come up and they start talking and they filibuster. They have nothing to say. They'll recite every poem they know, do whatever they can just to sit there and burn up that clock and sit there and keep you from,
Well, it must be a memo that they passed down to the anchors at CNN, because CNN's Pamela Brown had Tim Burchett as a guest yesterday. Representative Tim Burchett. Here's what he said.
Congressman, hold on. I want to go to this question because, again, it's not a question of whether waste should be rooted out of the government. So many people agree with that. But now we're seeing it's the way it's being done. The government is trying to claw back several employees who oversaw nuclear weapons after they were fired. They realized, we made a mistake. We need staffers who oversee nuclear weapons. A professor at the University of Maryland, Don Kettle, who specializes in civil service, told the Washington Post that, yes, the government is likely full of wasteful bloat, but said a clumsy fix is worse than no fix at all, saying it's like going to a meat market, getting a piece of steak, and trying to cut out the fat with a sledgehammer. That would only make a mess of the meat. Do you think, Congressman, that is a fair point, that the way this is being done is clumsy rather than methodical?
Again, you're upset about that. You're attacking the message carrier, not the results. You talk about nuclear secrets. You had a person who was in charge of nuclear secrets, a man who dressed up as a woman, would go into the airport and steal women's luggage, was overseeing those nuclear secrets under the Biden administration. And I never heard y'all say a peep about that. Again, man.
I don't know anything about that. I'll be transparent.
Elon Musk. You need to look it up. It's all over the internet. It's all over. He was uncharged.
The question is, this is unrelated to the people overseeing nuclear weapons being fired. And Elon Musk himself said, we're moving so fast, of course there will be mistakes. The question is, some of these mistakes are really high stakes. Accidentally firing people overseeing nuclear weapons. Do you see that point?
Humans will make mistakes, man, but currently these are bloated programs. You have no-show employees that are angry that they're having to go back to work, that they've moved, and they're not.
No one's disagreeing. There's bloat and waste.
Jobs were.
No one's disagreeing.
Well, then why are y'all not exposing it? Have y'all even talked about, Mozambique? We sent them $10 million for circumcisions. Okay. I mean, goodness gracious, ma'am. Americans are paying.
We've been covering at length
salaries.
Where the money is going
to. No, you haven't. All y'all do is run down Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and you continuously do this, and that's why your ratings are in the tank, ma'am.
All right, Congressman Tim Burchett, we're going to leave it there. I do appreciate your time coming on and having this conversation. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you're delighted. It's funny. She wasn't aware who Sam Brinton was. Sam Brinton was all over the news with his red dresses and his ruby red lipstick and his mustache.
That guy right there.
Yeah, that's it, Sam Brinton. And she wasn't aware of who he was. By the way, he also was he was a Department of Energy official. He had charge of nuclear secrets. This clown who was prancing around in public in a red dress and heels, a mustache. This guy was a Biden bigwig, and she didn't know who he was.
What were his credentials? Did he have any? Because I don't know.
I'll be damned if I know what his credentials were, because the media didn't do its job at the time and didn't do a background on the guy.
They never told us his backgrounds, and he was in charge. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he still doesn't get a paycheck, because of how a lot of those jobs work.
Yeah.
When they do these firings, and, this is a big hornet's nest. Well, I've appointed so-and-so. Well, so-and-so really doesn't work for the government. They work for the coffee can company here that has a contract with the government to supply people in the nuclear energy department and everything. So this guy might be working for this company, and not be properly vetted, but because they say, well, this is what we're about, and we can put people in those positions, and then they get classified information. This clown is a thief.
Yeah.
He stole women's lingerie and underwear and everything else.
He stole it. They have him for $2,325 of thievery, of theft in the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport alone, stealing luggage.
Yeah.
He stole, Bill, fashion designer Asia Kamzin. I guess she's a Middle Eastern fashion designer. She had designed a certain clothing, and the only way she knew that it was him that took it is this guy thought so much of it, he wore it in public, and they took pictures of him wearing her designer outfit, her designer dress.
I think that was the picture I just showed you. But yeah, he does all that. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a cheat. And here he is with nuclear
code
information that he shouldn't have. Does he have information that he might have funneled through the back door so he could buy himself a prom dress? I don't know.
I have no idea. But all I can tell you is CNN's anchor never heard of Sam Brinton. We talked about him on this podcast, but CNN's anchors, I don't doubt that they don't know who he is because they didn't cover it. They didn't pay attention to what was going on. By the way, I should point out to my friends listening, if I sound congested, we talked about the weather. All of my smart broadcasting friends, Bill, I talked to you about this before the show started, have moved to Florida. They're enjoying the sunshine and warm temperatures. And I'm stuck up here in the Northeast, freezing my tuchus off, but it wreaks havoc on my sinuses, as it does a lot of you too, I'm sure. So you're not alone, and I'm not alone, and that's misery loves company, I guess. Another big story, Marco Rubio is in, Syria, and he had Saudi Arabia. He had 4.5 hours worth of negotiations with Russia yesterday, 4.5 hours, and they were historic. It was a good meeting, and he talked about what was going on. Listen.
Our teams respectively have worked very quickly to reestablish the functionality of our respective missions in Washington and in Moscow. For us to be able to continue to move down this road, we need to have diplomatic facilities that are operating and functioning normally. That we're going to appoint a high-level team from our end to help negotiate and work through the end of the conflict in Ukraine in a way that's enduring and acceptable to all the parties engaged. The third point is to begin to work at a high level as well to begin to discuss and think about and examine both the geopolitical and economic cooperation that could result from an end to the conflict in Ukraine.
The big story was that Volodymyr Zelensky said in public that if he doesn't like the deal and he's not a part of the deal, well, he's not going to go along with it. Like, he has the final say. And the fact of the matter is, friends, he's probably $350 billion in debt to us. We hear this figure, $150 billion. No, Trump said yesterday in a press conference, it's more like $350 billion, and Europe maybe $100 billion. So for him to start throwing his, quote, weight around when his ratings are in the toilet, Billy, he hasn't had an election there. He's way overdue an election. He's running under martial law.
Yeah, well, because that's the only way he can stay in power is do it under martial law, because I don't think he'd be reelected. I do believe that I read that, I know I read yesterday that Trump and Putin are looking to meet for the peace talks without Mr. Zelensky. And Mr. Zelensky, though, is trying to get the European Union to give him, and they're actually looking to give him billions of dollars to.
What's interesting, a reporter from probably CNN asked President Trump about, Zelensky not being a part of the talks, and Trump got kind of ticked off. If you watch the press conference, he said, "Hey, this guy has had 3.5 or 4 years to get these talks going." And to talk peace and talk negotiations. He said, technically, he should have talked himself not into going to war. He should have sat down with Putin before the war started and avoided all of this. He said if he had been president and he had continued to be president, there never would have been the Ukraine war. But, Putin, I'm not saying he's perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
A lot of people call him the most vile things. But Putin figured it was an opportunity. There was no American government with strength or clout, 3.5 years ago. We had Biden, and Biden was spending more time sleeping in Delaware than he was running the country. And Putin knew this. And Putin figured, well, if I'm ever going to do anything, if anything's going to happen, if I'm ever going to get that land back, now's the time. And that's what he did.
Biden spent 40%, 570 days of his entire presidency on vacation. Now, that's not sleeping in Delaware. He, add that on top of it. This guy, he did less than half of his presidency in, actually doing things in the White House. And I think when he was there, they were probably changing his diaper. I don't know, because he walked damn thing.
He walked into a bakery yesterday. First time people had seen him in God knows how long. And he walked up to the counter in a bakery, and they took a video. Whoever was there took a video. The guy looked spaced out. He looked zoned. He could be on medication. I don't know. But he looked surprised to be where he was at. You know what I'm saying? It was that kind of a look like, oh, what the hell am I doing here? This was the former leader of the free world.
I really think a long time ago, and they should do it now, he needs to be in hospice. He needs to be in hospice care. And he's not cognitive. He doesn't have, he doesn't know who he is, what he is, or where he is. He might have moments, and that's probably drug induced.
Yeah. Well, he is. I think the left rather figures that they got to keep him looking like he's independent. We can't rush him to the nursing home right after he leaves office. But I do expect not too far on the road you'll hear that he's spending some time in assisted living somewhere. Getting specialized care.
Or he's going to get very sick, kind of like the Pope, who's got He's
double pneumonia.
Double pneumonia in both lungs. And so you got to wonder about his health. And, is that a distraction? I mean, I'm not meaning in a...
No, but, I think you're right. I think that's a very good observation. This guy was put into power. If you read the stories, there's a lot of speculation that he was politically put into power. The U.S. government at the time had some. They mentioned John Podesta in emails. John Podesta from the U.S., an advisor to Clinton and Obama, and he apparently had some influence. Like they wanted a pope that was more in line with their political thinking, not Pope Benedict, and they used political power and influence to get Pope Benedict moved out of the position. He called him the Pope Emeritus. I'm a Catholic. They haven't had a Pope Emeritus in my lifetime, ever, maybe for the past 500 years. All of a sudden, they moved him out and shoved this guy down our throats. And this guy was a leftist socialist, and he was more political than religious, believe me, in my opinion.
And you've got these lefty lawyers that pull up these archaic laws that were only used once, 100, 200, 300 years ago, and they bring them up and go, well, let's do this. And it's, who did you say was involved there? Clinton?
It was Podesta, John Podesta.
Podesta.
Yeah. He was an advisor to Clinton and Obama, both.
Well, there you go. I mean, I was sitting there, I was looking at, maybe the head of the snake was revealed. There was a lady that came out that used to be an advisor for Hillary, and she is claiming, just like the left media is all of a sudden, saying that, oh, well, Doge is going to cost lives, because when they get in a talking point, they all have the same exact talking point over and over and over again. And I see her talking about it. I see Bill Gates talking about it. Then I see CNN, NBC, and all of them doing it. And it came from this lady that was one of the advisors, consultants with Hillary Clinton. So, it brings a little circle of people, together again that are they really the ones calling the shots on the left, and they're running around desperately trying to, not pin the tell on themselves.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Right now, we're hearing from the left, all radical left are talking about is Elon Musk and his interference, and how he's going to get your information because he wants tax cuts to the rich. This is the kind of stuff they're throwing out there. Elon Musk is worth $450 billion, the richest man in the world by two. Okay, the second guy in line is like $220 billion. So Musk is way ahead. He, by the way, he lives a very modest lifestyle compared to most of his counterparts. Hasn't got the yachts and the stuff. He just he lives. He's a carefree soul with a lot of money and a big mind, a very intelligent mind. You know, and by the way, if you can say what you want about him now if you're on the left, but I'm telling you, 6 months ago you were proud to call him a friend. I mean, you guys were kissing up to him, trying to get money for your campaigns because you thought of him as being a leftist. When you realized he was more centrist, maybe more right, well, that would have been like a pregnant pole vaulter. But what I wanted to point out was not too long ago, Obama and Biden both were talking about how important it was to have a streamlined and efficient government, how they wanted you to know that they were working on cutting the fat from government waste, getting rid of the things we didn't need. Listen, this is from a promo, Obama and Biden both.
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way. What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
It's amazing. You hear Obama talking about all these great things, streamlining government, getting rid of the fat, trimming the waste. And I'm thinking, they never did it. All they did, Bill, is talk. The problem is now that Trump, he didn't just talk, he's doing it. I think the figure was, as of yesterday, Bill, that so far, how long has he been in office? About a month?
About 3.5, 4 weeks. Yeah.
The figure right now that DOGE has found with regard to waste is $55 billion. That doesn't include the $4.7 trillion they can't find that they talked about yesterday. But the actual provable stuff they can find, $55 billion. You know, what was it Everett Dirksen said? $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and before you know it, you're talking real money. That is what we're talking about here, real money, $55 billion. Not too far down the road, it wouldn't surprise me if we cut so much money out of the waste out of the government that we start seeing it in our taxes. We start seeing lower taxes, less stress on us. Because
all right, let me ask you a question. Let's just say for a minute we cut down the debt. I mean, I've counted up about $6 trillion that they have seen in waste.
I mean, amazing. Yeah.
So you got $6 trillion that could possibly go away. Not all of it, because some of it was money they found that was going out the window to the way of the Fagawi that we have no idea where it is and it won't get back. A lot of it we won't get back, but we can stop that, which brings that down. And the waste brings it down to where the debt could end up, for the most part, canceling itself. The tariffs tick in. I see all these posts going, oh, we can't do this. It's going to cost thousands of dollars. People down here in the car parts. Look, all of our exports, when we ship to another country, they charge us a tariff. We pay tariffs on the stuff that we export, which is why things are higher here, higher here, because when what we import, we don't charge them tariffs on. And that's why you got Chinese things and Japanese things that are so cheap. That's why you've had American manufacturing go overseas. We need to put everything on an equal plane. So let's just say all that took place, and all of a sudden we had no taxes, or we had this surplus to where we're a wealthy country again. And, we don't have to.
And that's why we have to spend more money for American products. You're saying, wait, you have a Chinese item, and boy, I can buy that for half the price. It does the same thing. And the American item works great, wonderful item, but we have to pay sometimes twice as much. Why is that? Because the American company that makes that ships all around the world, that stuff, and they get, like Bill said, hit with tariffs. So their cost of operation increases significantly because it has to pay all those foreign tariffs. So now they got a nut to crack. By Trump going reciprocal with tariffs, which is what he just did, he's saying if you're charging us 25%, we're charging you 25%, which essentially will be a wash in the long run, which means that our companies now will be able to cut back their prices to their public. And, it's only fair, by the way. Well, they're going nuts in Europe about this, Bill.
Yeah. And, we are a big country. We used to manufacture steel here. It looks like we're going to do it again. We made aluminum down in West Virginia. I know that they did. But all of a sudden those plants went away. And so the left is arguing, well, where are we going to get the steel? Where are we going to get the aluminum? We're going to start making it again. Stupid. We used to make it.
We still got the factories in Pittsburgh. And by the way, there are some streamlined high-tech factories being built in Pittsburgh to make steel, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, we are going to ratchet things up here a bit in the U.S., start hiring some talented people again who haven't been working because they've lost their jobs in the past. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about the employment that Trump is going to generate by getting these companies to come back to America. We talked about that major, I think it's Nissan, was building a plant in Mexico, biggest auto plant in North America. They've stopped building it. They're moving it to the U.S. Well, that means that a lot of people in the U.S. are going to go back to work. Making some decent wages.
Now, Nissan, that was one of the things that I saw. That's the left. They post these memes, and I'm going like, where's your proof on all this? Well, the auto industry, Honda and Toyota, they're gonna shut down because of the tariffs. And you just talked about Nissan. Now, let me tell you something about Nissan. Nissan, they have been faltering for a long time. They used to be a good manufacturer. I don't know. They may still be, but they were getting ready to close. Honda sucked them up. Now Nissan was forced to their talks collapsed. They say.
They
did.
Yeah, but Bill, what you're saying, I don't. When I hear that, I think
but see, the left is lying about everything. Nissan is the only reason that they're cutting 9% of their workforce is because they're not selling their cars like they used to. Southwest Airlines, they're going, aren't you glad now that you elected the orange man because Southwest is laying off 15% of their employees? Well, number one, the airline industry is volatile. Number two, there's no mention of anything about Trump in there or anything to do with tariffs. It has to do with them restructuring and cutting their costs because it is a very tight industry to be in. And for them to, as their accountants look at it, go forward, they've got to reduce their workforce and cut their expenses. And that's what they're doing.
Bill, I remind people, and they're very easy to forget this, they tried to blame the crash in Washington about 2.5 3 weeks ago on Trump. Mm-hmm. And his Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, he wasn't in office one day. He wasn't in office one day when that crash happened, and they turned around and tried to make it sound like the accident was a result of Trump's efforts. That accident, if anything, was a result of Biden's efforts. But I don't believe it was an executive branch problem. I think it was somebody in the military should have said, we don't do any exercises during rush hour at Reagan National. Otherwise, it could be a problem.
I got a clue. You know, number one, that base is in a bad place. If there is an airport there that is a civilian airport, you don't put a military base by it to where you do training exercises right there. That is a recipe for disaster, which you had. These guys had ceiling limits that they didn't adhere to. They weren't supposed to be wearing their night vision goggles, but they were. They were doing a lot of things. As a matter of fact, the tower did communicate with him, but some jackass in the helicopter was keying his mic at the time because they weren't doing any of the things that they wanted to. They said it wasn't about DEI, and then they started scrubbing the internet, everything about the one person that was a pilot. Lovely girl, I'm sure, you know, but she made some bad decisions. And now they're trying to go, well, you know, could have been a mechanical thing. It could have been a human error thing. Now, I'm not saying it has to do with DEI, but when I heard the 400 hours and, you know, they're in charge and all that, I'm going like, sounds like somebody was rushed through to get into a position.
You know, when you go out to a major airport, I've gone out to a number of them, but at nighttime between 4 and like 8 o'clock at night, especially on the winter nights when it's dark already, you can look at the sky, and it looks like a highway of airplanes backed up to land. You can see the closest one with the brighter lights, but if you look back behind them in the sky, you'll see miles off in the distance another plane getting ready to land. And behind that, even further off, another plane getting ready to land because they are busy during those hours. So Reagan National, they say, possibly is the busiest airport during those hours in the country. Reagan, and it's also an old airport and a smaller airport in a difficult place to land. You literally, if you have ever landed there, I have landed there. You come in over the Potomac, and you think you're going to land on the water, and then all of a sudden the runway pops up on you. You know, that's how it feels. And for them to think it was okay, the military, to be testing some novice pilot some strategy while plane loads of people were landing during rush hour was ridiculous.
They shouldn't be doing the base being right where it is, not really a problem. What is a problem is that they were doing exercises right there in that area where commercial traffic is. You know, that is using civilians as human guinea pigs for their mistakes or their practice. And that is wrong. Whoever came up with that, you know, needs to be held accountable.
Why do they tell them, look at you know, you got to get the helicopters and you take off and you've got to fly 10 miles away from the airport before you do your exercises.
Take them out in an open place that's unpopulated. There's nothing there, cleared ground. Or maybe, you know, now I could see maybe strategically having that base close to the White House, mile and a half away. It's there to defend, if that's the one. But I think there's a lot of bases around.
Yeah, there are.
Things can come in quick. So I would reevaluate that base. And if they're doing training missions, you know, there are bases that have been shut down that are in the middle of nowhere that you could go and refabricate and then say, okay, you bring those helicopters in there. They're still in a strategic place where they can go and hit. Plus, they're secluded to where they can go out and do their training exercises. If they make a mistake, they're not bringing down a jet airliner full of civilians.
Absolutely. And the problem is you have a lot of fatheads who think that it's more financially responsible to have that base where it's at because, well, it's been there forever and there's no new cost of building a new base. Well, maybe there should be. Maybe the times require a new base in a different location that's safer for everybody. Obviously, it's not safe where it's at now. And by the way, to the mainstream media, stop blaming everything on Trump. The man has been in office a month. When Joe Biden was in office a month, I don't think he would even had a press conference yet. He'd done nothing.
It's not about Trump. It is about, you know, a point I'll make. If you listen to Republicans talking about democracy, that's exactly how they present democracy. To secure democracy, we need to do this. That's where the we comes in. For Democrats, He's going to destroy, quote unquote, our democracy.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean your democracy, Jim, or me, Bill, my democracy, because it is not mine. No, it's theirs. It's theirs. You know, it's the Democrats. It's our democracy and what they want. And in their democracy, it's woke, and they have transgenders, and the science is different, and they have climate change, and they have extravagant spending, and it goes on and on and on and on.
By the way, I hope.
Need a divorce.
By the way, I guess Kash Patel is. They say he probably will be voted on tomorrow, Thursday, and by at the very latest, the end of the week, he should be the FBI director. I would think that he's the last of the key players that Trump needs to have in position to start making a real significant difference, because a lot of these people on the left have been doing things that are corrupt. All you have to do is look at what Doge has already shown us, that there are billions, if not trillions of dollars missing. You know, they talked about that $4.7 trillion that they found missing. And the reason why they don't include that in that $55 billion figure is because what they're thinking is that a lot of that may be very legitimate expenditures that weren't categorized. They weren't put into they didn't put a memo in the what this was used for. But I guarantee you that out of that $4.7 trillion of money that they can't figure out where it's gone, I guarantee you a large chunk of that is fraud and waste. And they have got to start to dig into stuff like that. I mean, can you imagine $4.7 trillion? If you ran, Bill, your home this way without putting notations as to what you were writing these checks for, you'd live in a house of confusion.
Yeah, well, I do anyway. But that is the one thing that they have to do when you're cutting budgets like what they're cutting. Not everything is going to remain cut. You have to bring it. You have to reel it all in to sit there and look at it and go, okay, you know, we spent this much, but we only need to spend this much. Well, we really don't need that. You know, like when you're doing your house budget, you might have all these stupid little things that over the years you picked up and you got, and you're going, oh, I can't believe I'm still paying for that. Why am I paying for that? Because you forgot about it. And you have to reel it all in. They're saying, oh, no. Take your time and do all this and do all that. Well, yeah, okay, take your time. Let's take about 4 years so they have a chance to change Congress, change Senate, change the presidency. They want to expand. They talk budget cuts, but they never, ever, did I say ever, do it. No, they didn't.
Well, except now. Except now. They're being
forced.
Well,
that was not they.
They're being forced to think budget cuts. Hey, before we forget one more time, let's remind people that we have a great coffee that's available for them right now. It's Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee and our rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com. Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. A delicious blend of the finest coffee beans available, and you can have your cup very soon if you head to rightsideshop.com right now and order your bag of Right Side Coffee. If you're somebody who can't have the caffeine, we have a decaffeinated version of the coffee in there too. So either way, we've got you covered. Also, we have Mappa coffee available. Make America Percolate Again. And that's only available, both of these coffees, only available at rightsideshop.com. By the way, we are also the only company that employ Juan Jose and the Border Crossers to sing our jingle.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Bill, it's been an interesting week so far, and it's only Wednesday. I think more interesting stuff coming down the road.
Yeah, I think so. There's, like you said, Kash Patel tomorrow, and the left doesn't want him. But I think he's in, and there's a few more things going on out there, but I'm waiting to see, some of the other things that are transpiring,
Well, we have the talks that are going on in Saudi Arabia. We have Gaza, which, I have a strong feeling that they've just about had it with Hamas. They showed some pictures in the news yesterday. Hamas killed in captivity, and this breaks my heart. I mean, you look at the pictures, you want to cry. Killed a little baby, beautiful little baby. My gosh, I don't know the name of the child. Beautiful little baby. The little baby's older sister by about a year or two, and the young mother. All three of them were in captivity alive, and they were killed in captivity. You know, that should say enough. That's gone one step too far for these people, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if the military activities resume sometime soon to bring this thing to a conclusion, because they can't live with Hamas. It can't happen.
No. Well, Hamas is returning some more of their hostages dead. You know, do they have anybody else alive? And, you know, and they expect for those dead bodies, they get alive hostages. I don't want to sound morbid here, but, you know, the hostages were taken prisoner for nothing that they did wrong, just for the fact of being a hostage. A prisoner has done something egregious, killed people. And to me, they don't have the rights.
They don't equate. You're right.
They don't equate. And, you know, you want to send me a dead body? Well, okay. You want a 10-to-1 ratio? Okay. You know, let's get real here. It's time to sit there, but it's not our say.
Right.
This is really Israel. And
well, that's why a lot of people say, why did, you know, Trump said, I'm giving you a deadline noon on Saturday last week. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't he do something? It was because it's not really his decision, because it's not really our war. We support them, but we don't run the war. So anyway, it's going to be a crazy week. And with that being said, I think that we can wrap this one up. I have nothing more to add to today's show. How about yourself?
No, I don't have anything else to add. That's pretty much it. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.